Now on In Focus, here on Newzroom Afrika, Channel 405, in conversation with the fourth president of Malawi, the second democratically elected president on the African continent. I believe there are 6 now who have made that list. She is credited for turning around the economy of Malawi. When she came in 2012, it was floundering at 1.6% of the GDP growth. But when she left in 2014, it's said to be sitting at 6.2%. She is now the chairperson of the Women's Empowerment Development, Africa, Asia, amongst other hats that she is wearing. And she's joining us tonight here on In Focus. Your Excellency, Dr. Joyce Banda, good to have you on Newzroom Afrika. Welcome, and thank you for joining us on In Focus.
Thank you very much for having me, and greetings to all the viewers.
You're currently here in South Africa for your speak at the SADC Regional Colloquium, looking at that body and what it has done particularly well, what it has failed to do, and what it looks like going into the future. Now, this is happening, of course, on the backdrop of a lot of simmering tensions here in South Africa around this question of economic migration. And there are various movements that are beginning to emerge here in the country that are raising issues around that. Even political heads in the country are raising issues around, for example, the strain that the health system is taking because of...
I saw that yesterday.
First and foremost, are you worried about that conversation around the unity of the African continent?
No, I'm not worried about the unity of the African continent. I'm just worried that SADC has been slower in consolidating this region, this bloc. I said this because I'm watching very keenly the bloc, the East African bloc, that now DRC has joined. Burundi is there, Rwanda is there, Uganda is there, Kenya is there, Tanzania is there. When you look at the map, it is coast to coast. That's powerful. And yet, we were earlier. We were organized much earlier. And we could have done better. Yeah. We could have done better as a bloc. Our forefathers, our founding fathers of SADC had a very clear vision. And they wanted, their goal was very clear. They wanted the whole Southern Africa liberated. That is the greatest achievement we must not overlook. And that must make us honor those fathers. Because here we are. There's no country now. There's no apartheid, political apartheid. Economic apartheid is another thing. Yeah. There's no country under any colonialism. So for that, yes, we achieved what we were meant to achieve. Yeah. But then it is when it was revived, when it began to evolve, when the other sea was removed. Now it is a SADC where me as a citizen look up to see what does it bring, how does my country benefit in terms of the common market, in terms of migration, in terms of jobs, the common currency that we were hoping to achieve by 2018. Yeah. All those things are the things now this SADC must achieve.
So the criticism is that, though, the body is a dog that has no bite.
Yeah. So that is where these verdicts come in. Because one person will say, oh, no, SADC has achieved a lot. It's a successful organization. But somebody else will say, no, it's a toothless bulldog. Why? It's because when there are conflicts in the region, the expectation is that this SADC will have a brigade or an army that will help and intervene. Why must we get a country from East Africa come all the way down to assist us when the insurgency comes? Those are the questions that now people are asking themselves. Mm-hmm. What is it? Is it a question of capacity or what? But for me, it is where we are coming from that makes me feel very proud. And it is where we are coming from that gives me hope that if we only apply ourselves a little bit stronger. I was asked yesterday to say, what is it that you people discuss when you get to SADC?
Yeah.
Because we don't hear about whatever you've discussed. You have a communique, yes, but when you get home, do you apply what you have discussed? Because that's what brings this SADC together. So it's like SADC is here. I'm more Malawian than SADC. Yeah. What should happen is that I must be Malawian, but I must always remember that I'm a member of SADC.
Your
So that brings us to the other question that you're asking about economic migration.
Yeah.
For me, I feel very sad. I feel very sad when I see young people in South Africa are fighting with those that come. What that says to me is that it's not the fault of the young men and women in Africa fighting, but it is also not the fault of those leaving their countries to come. That is where we as leaders must rise and take responsibility. It is when in Malawi I'm creating jobs and opportunities for young people that they will not come to South Africa because there will be no need. Yeah. Now the fact that they come is because there's something wrong from where I'm coming from. They are looking for prosperity. They are looking for a better life. They are looking for opportunities. And they're raising their voices every day. So it's not as though they are not telling us. We know. So it is when we must now sit together as SADC, those that are leaders now, and say, how can we help one another? This is a huge market, just among ourselves. I am a farmer. For many years, I export chilies to Europe. Yes, if this market was well organized, we could sell to one another. We could trade among ourselves. That can create a lot of jobs. So it is to seriously sit down and examine this issue of economic migration.
Yeah.
And I think it is wrong to blame anybody. I cannot blame South Africans fighting, and I cannot blame the rest of Africa coming. What I must blame is us as leaders. What is it that we are doing to make sure that our boys are not so desperate, our youth are not so desperate to go and drown in the Mediterranean or to come all the way to South Africa and fight with their brothers?
Now, you normally say when we encourage ourselves, we shall do more. But if we dim our mood with statistics that are negative, then it's retrogressive.
Yeah.
What achievements would you say we have recorded thus far on the African continent on the question of gender equality and women empowerment? I mean, you say America is only now celebrating a vice president who is female. Africa, you've done it 12 years ago already.
They're to a penny. I mean, all over. I mean, vice presidents are everywhere. So, but we can talk about 6 heads of state. And I say this not because I think it's enough. I say this because I want to encourage myself. I don't like, and everybody knows that I'm a person who is optimistic all the time. I look at deep clouds, dark clouds, and I see rain and abundance. Some of you will see the same clouds and see destruction. So I have hope that we can do it. You know why? Because African women were leaders before colonization, true or false?
True.
And they say that it is colonization that delayed us. They say that those people, when they came to colonize us, they didn't have women in their structure. They didn't know what to do with us. We were already leading nations at that time. The history is there, and it's clear. Starting from Ghana, in fact, in Ghana, we had this courageous queen, Queen Asentawa, who refused the colonialists to enter Ghana, while the men had already given in. And they sent her away. She died in Seychelles in exile. We've been brave, and we've stood with our men, and we've led our nations before colonization. So later on, when our brothers on the continent, Kwame Nkrumah, Nelson Mandela, Julius Nyerere, Mugabe, were now fighting for self-rule, our women also rose to the occasion. The Winnie Mandelas, Albertina Sisulu, Rose Chiwambo, women all over the continent. So now that we have 6 women that have gone to State House, what that says to me is that Africa was prepared for female leadership before because of our history. And what I have found, serving as president in Malawi, men have no problem working with you as a female leader. The people that will castigate you and call you names and demean you are the opposition, are your detractors. I mean, so what do you expect from those? Yeah. But the people, because the attribute of a good leader, in my opinion, is one that is able to assemble a good team, male or female. Put those together to work with you. And also, the attributes of a good leader is when you are able to say, this is my team, I must listen, I don't know it all. So we have done well, but there are challenges that we face. And so back to your question, we've had 6 women. We've had Ellen Sirleaf, Central African Republic, Catherine Panza, Amina Fakim in Mauritius, then Joyce Banda, Madam Samia in Tanzania, yeah. And Saleh in Ethiopia. So 6 women have tested that title, have been to State House. But if you've just said what was possible in 2014, there were also performers, but also women are risk takers. And they come to that table, to that job, with compassion, with a female inner woman inside, compassionate. They focus on big projects as well as poor projects because they feel it, because instinctively they feel it. What the problem is, in my opinion, is that in 1995, we went to Beijing and we agreed in Beijing that we shall come back and occupy positions of leadership. And we came back and we tried. And most of us did get into positions of leadership. What we did not discuss is how do we support each other to stay in that job.
Dr. Banda, there is still much social and institutional neglect of members of the female gender in many parts of Africa. And the net effect of that is that they are ending up poorer, they work longer hours, they still dying at giving birth. I mean, you name it. There's still a number of these issues that still prevail. What is wrong with the world order that makes those things to continue like that?
I always feel that it is the political will that is lacking all over the place. I don't want to place that blame anywhere else. Key should be the political will, the leadership. And I say that because I've been there, so I know that you can make things happen very quickly in favor of women. When I got into office, one example, when I got into office, I immediately appointed a female Chief Justice, a female Solicitor General, a female Head of Civil Service, 100 appointments, 8 district commissioners that deal directly with people at grassroots. But also, I realized that the network of chiefs, the traditional leadership in Malawi, starting with my king who just came here 2 weeks ago, last week to attend the
coronation of the Zulu.
Yeah, it is a whole body of leaders that we ignore as leaders, because they've got their role as traditional leaders. But they can be key in bringing about change in our nation. So when I came in, I engaged the traditional leaders and told them they must not accept to allow one woman die in their village giving life. It's not anywhere. It's not even in the Bible that we should die giving life. Why are we just sitting around and watching that? So through this network and working with government and the private sector, I can't go into that because I'll take the whole time remaining, but we ended up reducing maternal death by 32% in 2 years, including building holding shelters at government hospitals, where a woman then, where there are no ambulances at grassroots, can travel to the hospital and wait for her due date there, so that when labor starts, she's close to trained personnel. We even were recognized by the African Union and received an award in 2013. So I know that political will is key. If you get into a position of leadership, you can appoint And in Malawi, I pushed for and championed the passing of a bill that says, 42% of all appointments by government shall be women. So when this president came in, who I proudly work with, he appointed 32%. And the women started marching on the street.
Yeah.
Now back to our own way of doing things, because I think the world can learn from us about how we approach the whole issue of feminism and the whole issue of gender equality. Yeah. So the women were marching on the street going to parliament to give a petition. And I phoned the president. I said, the women are very angry. They are very upset. They're marching on the street. They think 32 or 35% is not adequate. The president says, but I'm in State House. Where are they going? Which is what I am saying. We must engage our men. We can't confront them. We can't be provocative. We can't scream. We engage them. Sit down and talk. And the women organized themselves. They went, they sat with the president, discussed amicably. Right now, we have 42% in cabinet and 50-50 in the judiciary.
So, I mean, one of the approaches that academics would like to take is what they call women in development. Women in development is precisely what you're talking about. The approach that others are saying came from the West, that says we need to do away with, I suppose, the traditional way of doing things, the patriarchy that oppresses women and so on and so forth. So you see a rise against traditional leadership and things like that. Are you saying that approach in itself is not what will work in terms of empowering women on the African continent?
What will work best on the African continent is when leaders decide that they're going to change the situation of women, that they owe it to us. It's a moral obligation for them to change the situation. But secondly, it is the women themselves getting organized. And we have organized ourselves right now. We have, and your own daughter here, Mdluli, when she served as UN Secretary, as Deputy Secretary General, Assistant Secretary General, she championed the formation of the African Women Leaders Network jointly with the AU. So we have a very strong organization that is an intergenerational organization, women of my age and younger women leaders coming up. And that is a very powerful platform. So women must organize themselves, organizing themselves and find their way to the policy formulating tables. I mean, I've seen South African women, how they found their way to boardrooms. And so we know that we can do it. Yeah. So while we are waiting we are looking up and naming and shaming our leaders to take responsibility. That political will come, but we also must play a role of moving and getting to the table. Because, I mean, you can walk, somebody can show you the door, you can get to the door, but you need to turn the knob in order for the door to open. Yeah.
So while we are on that question, then, the succession process and how you're handling it, some would be critical of the fact that you stood down and allowed the men to be president when you could have opened up the space for a young female president to take up the challenge after you. Why did you decide at that time that it was appropriate for you to step down and instead cooperate with the current administration?
I think when you talk to all the 6 women that have been leaders, I mean, let me take out the 2 that I know first, but if I take the 4, they will tell you the challenges they face. It's not a joke. I mean, this game called politics is a dirty game. And if you come into that position to change things, to take risks, because for me, leadership is a love affair. You must fall in love with the people yourself, and the people must fall in love with you. So what matters to you most is to do things right for the sake of the people that you love, that love you back. And those that I love in Malawi are rural people, and those that are disadvantaged. And they know that I love them, and they love me back. So you focus all your energy and your time doing that. In the meantime, there's a lot of politics running around. So, for example, let's take the issue of cash gate. Well, that's my greatest achievement. I discover that people are stealing money. So I make an announcement to the nation. I've just been alerted. Money is being stolen. I've put together a team. If you are arrested, whether you are my son or my father or my husband, you're going to jail. And indeed, in no time at all, it starts coming out. And then 72 people, my government arrests 72 people. And I dissolve my cabinet and take out the ministers that are being mentioned, go and be investigated. I'm not saying you're guilty. If you are cleared, you will come back. So the arrests are taking place, but then I take a step further, that some people on the continent have said, no other African leaders have done that, that I asked for a forensic audit to be conducted in my government during my time. I mean, sometimes a forensic audit will take place when you have left. Yeah. But I also asked the British government to send an independent audit firm. That report is online. It's clear. But such are the fights. Then people will pick that and build a narrative. And my husband, who is one of the finest lawyers my husband, Malawi has produced, he was Chief Justice mine in Swaziland. He told me, if you haven't done anything wrong, proceed and do what is right for the people you love. Because no matter how long it takes, you will never go to jail because you didn't do anything wrong. How are you a mad person that you start a fight, you arrest people when you have been part of it? So it is that what we must do. But then that is what some of us find too much and too cumbersome. Yeah. But then came the elections. And the Electoral Commission in Malawi at that time announced that there has been fraud. So we are going to recount the votes. Everybody was very clear about the projects that I had across the country, particularly those that were popular then, that are popular even now, were the poor projects, Ekawa family, modern houses in the villages, and so on. So the Electoral Commission announces there's been fraud. We are going to recount the votes. They go to court to take an injunction against the recounting. But then later on, you must have heard, the warehouse holding the ballot papers was burnt down. Up to today, nobody has been taken to book. So there was no, even if I had pursued, there would be no ballot papers to count. But again, 2019, the same rigging using Tipex. It wasn't even sophisticated. I mean, you just take white correcting fluid and change the figures. That's how crude it was. In 2019, it happened again. The two competitors, President Lazarus Chakwera and his vice now, went to court. If you look at the cost, it was 8 billion kwacha. So $8 million. There's no way I could have raised money to that extent. So I didn't even have the resources. So that's what women, when we look at the challenges women face, one of them is the economic capacity. For them to be able to fight, even to stand for elections as member of parliament. Yeah. In countries where you run on equal ground, women fail, and yet communities lose good leaders because they couldn't afford. So yes, you can call it giving up, but I just felt that I couldn't fight anymore, so I left. The tragedy is that when you look at Amina Fakim, if you ask her what happened, identical back to back. A simple thing that that she was appointed to Planet Earth as a board member. She tells Planet Earth, I will never come to your meetings using government resources. That's not how I operate. Or we will give you a credit card so that every time you come here, costs that are related to your trip to come here are paid for by Planet Earth. She goes to London, she attends the meeting, buys whatever she bought. She comes back, being a woman leader, she puts her card there and then looks at what she bought that could be perceived to be personal and writes a check and gives to her official to go and bank into the account of Planet Earth. Next day, that check, those receipts, her bank statement is on front page. She was asked to resign based on nothing else but that move. In spite of Planet Earth writing a letter to say, but we don't understand the problem because we gave her the credit card for the purposes that she used it for. She had to leave office. So if you go across Africa and look at, yes, we get into office. That's why I said we didn't plan on assisting one another to stay in office. Yeah.
There is, of course, this new position that you've just recently been elected to as the chairperson of the Women's Empowerment Development for Africa, Asia. What do you see that position doing for the capacitating of women for business, for politics, and for life in general?
Yeah, well, what happened, the origin of that organization, it was initiated in Asia, not Africa, because in 2015, we celebrated Beijing plus 20. And there were a lot of meetings at the UN. And I'm told that President Jinping of China was invited as the host country that hosted 1995 Beijing conference. So there he had also, he hosted an event at the UN. In those discussions, it became clear that work has not been completed, that we are far from completing the agenda of 1995. So when he came back, he encouraged civil society in Asia to form this organization, Asia, Africa, Women's Empowerment and Development, to continue with the work. What became apparent is what I see is your concern, that yes, we can't call ourselves leaders when the majority of us are languishing in poverty, our children are not going to school, our children are getting married at 11. Yeah. There's so much more to be done in that respect. It is necessary, the women agreed, to have an organization that will focus now not only on political empowerment or participation of women, but on this arena that you are concerned about. Yeah, to look at the lives of the women, what is happening, what can we do to accelerate the emancipation of women and girls. Hence this organization. It is new. I think I'm the first chair of that organization. And what we are doing to kickstart, is that we formed the organization. I accepted the position. I gave the keynote speech last year, but now we are establishing a women's center in Malawi. And money has been raised from all over Asia to help Africa establish that center, a center where women will come to for short courses, not run to when they are in not an abuse center or whatever, but a center where they will come and get skills. Yeah. So that is the first project that we are establishing. And unfortunately, since I was appointed, I've not been to Asia because of COVID. So I haven't even traveled to China. And I'm focusing more on the establishment of this center because we are going to build it brick by brick. Yeah.
Why skills? Why the focus on skills?
Yeah, we want to focus on skills because that is what is lacking. When I was 40 years old when I formed the National Association of Business Women, believing that economic empowerment of women is key to social and political empowerment. And so for me, we conducted a survey and found that women lack training, they lack information, and they lack credit. But then we also discovered that most of the women that go into business, only 19% had gone beyond primary school. Right. So we realized that if we are going to provide that so-called training, it must be tailor-made. So we must have a center that focuses on training of women, but with courses that are tailor-made. You know what I mean? You can go to learn how to make a cake in a classroom, but you can also go and learn how to make a cake by watching. Yeah. So tailor-made courses like that are specifically designed for women, that even those that can't read and write. So that is the Women's Center. It will be in business, it will be the farming. Yeah, I have, under the Joyce Banda Foundation, 5,000 women outgrowers that grow chilies. Well, maybe that is a place they could come for a week or two to be taught how to start a business in chili growing, that kind of thing.
So now one of the reasons that is cited as a reason that would subject women to obscurity when it comes to economic development is that most women entrepreneurial ability is stifled by regulatory environment, such as legislation, education, culture, and limited access to management and job opportunities, as well as family responsibilities. How do we strike that balance, and how do we navigate particularly the part of regulation and governance?
Yeah, back to political will, governments must create an enabling environment where men and women can operate equally. But I think back to, as somebody who has done a lot of women's economic empowerment, particularly grassroots women, is that whatever we do, men must be involved. They must be involved. Even in fighting maternal health, we engaged men as well. I have found that that is what is lacking. Sometimes, because we have decided men, this patriarchy, the men are abusers, men want to listen, then we close up a very big opportunity. We must engage men. In Malawi, for the first time in 2012, to see male chiefs talk about childbirth. And that's how we were able to achieve 32% reduction. So we must engage men, even in business, because that's what I told the women. In 1992, they came and destroyed my factory. I had 100 workers. And today I had a factory, tomorrow I didn't have. And those people who had them break into my business, because it was during demonstrations, they said because our wives are rude to us now. She's empowering women, and now they don't regard us. It was about ego. So if you engage the men, if you get them in, it is the approach. And then, so it will be even your husband helping you to run your business, depending on how you approach. So for me, it is organizations, women's organizations, well organized, to support women, to support girls to go to school, to support women to go to parliament, but then ensure that our brothers are involved.
Supporting women going to parliament, how do you ensure? I mean, for example, in South Africa, we also boast 46% women MPs. From 1994, I think it was 2.5%. Today, we're sitting at 46%. But some believe that the women are there, they're 46%, but they are just warming the seats when men are still the ones who are largely making the decision on the political positions that the majority party is taking. How do you ensure that?
Do you mean they just warm the seat?
It's a critique that many are saying that those
in
women,
South Africa.
In South Africa in particular, yeah.
Because
how do you ensure that they actually have a meaningful contribution in the making of the laws that govern the country?
Yeah. For example, in Malawi, you have to fight on equal ground to get to parliament. There's no affirmative action, number one. Number two, our system is where you stand for election yourself. It's not the party. It's not the party, because in other systems, the party stands and then they choose who the MPs are going to be. That one, I don't know how it works. But the one that I know is the one where you will go on the ground and the people give you the mandate in your own right. But then what parliaments have done, and what an organ called Women's Caucus in every parliament, that is the one that makes sure that because I championed, when I was Minister of Gender and Member of Parliament, I championed the passing of the Domestic Violence Bill. And I know what we did. We were only 11 women, but we had to get the rest. 193, we had to get the 88 to be on our side. And we passed that bill. After a struggle, yes, but in the end, we got our brothers to vote with us, to say, yes, domestic violence must end. So it is those caucuses that will work. And we did a lot of things that time, including bringing communities the day of voting from their constituencies so they can see them say no to domestic violence, and then used the media to expose the abuses women were going through. For example, there was this woman, her husband chopped off both her arms, her hand, her arms. And so pictures like those, vividly. Yeah. So people then said, no, enough is enough. Sure. We marched on the streets. I took the lead to sensitize the public. But when I went on the street, my president told my male counterparts, my colleagues who were male ministers, some of them came and marched with us. So giving that picture that this is not just about women. Yeah. This is about men and women. Consent about the abuses women are going through. Yeah.
What else would you say? I mean, on that question of gender-based violence, South Africa has unfortunately got the terrible tag of being the femicide capital of the world. The question of gender-based violence is just one that we are seemingly not getting a grasp on. Men are talking, men are coming on board. What do you think needs to happen?
I really don't understand, because the research on COVID-19 revealed that teen marriages had increased, school dropouts had increased, poverty had increased. But one that shocked me was that domestic violence had increased. Yeah. Why do you want to beat me up or to kill me? Because we are on lockdown. I mean, it doesn't make sense. I fail to understand the anger in South Africa. Not that things are not, there's no abuse, there's no domestic violence anywhere else, but for somebody to chop his wife and put in trash bags and put in the fridge. Yeah. There must be something seriously wrong. In my opinion, I think we are dealing with a generation of men that are angry. And they are angry, and because they don't know where to turn that to, they turn it on the women. What we need to do is to get to the root. And in my opinion, I get back to what I said earlier. It is this lack of opportunity. It is this hopelessness in their lives. These men that sit there and they find, I can't feed my family. I'm a failure. I mean, his ego is terribly affected. I can't feed my wife. I can't find a job. I can't buy a car. I can't live the life other people live. I can't send my children to school. Because he's angry. I think that angry has to be, I'm saying this without research, and it's wrong. But I'm just saying, I'm just assuming, I'm just suspecting, I'm just begging South Africa and the whole Africa, my country as well, to go deep and find out why is this happening. Yes. We need more research.
We certainly do, and we need more action. Maybe one would.
Yes, more action. But then stiffer sentences.
Stiffer
sentences by our legal. I mean, you heard about the cleansing in Malawi, where this man, Eric Niva, admitted on BBC that yes, families in that part of the nation, we have this cleansing ritual where when a girl gets to 9, 10 years old, they find a grown man to defile her and pay him for that favor. And he was boasting that I've slept with 103 girls and I'm HIV positive. Yeah, so it's government, and I think he's already out. Yeah. It is sentences that these people get when they commit such heinous crimes. Sensitization, yes, but the punishment perpetrators get matters.
Your Excellency, you were now recently in Zimbabwe, I think about 3 or 4 months ago, where you were propagating this concept of smart villages, which your foundation is already running quite successfully in Malawi. Tell us a little bit more about that approach to rural development and how the rest of the continent certainly could be able to plug into that concept.
Yeah, the Smart Villages is not under the Joyce Banda Foundation. Joyce Banda Foundation is mobilizing women around digital inclusion. So thousands and thousands of women, it's called Market Women's Activities and Initiatives, which is a project under the Joyce Banda Foundation, targeting women in the markets and women in agriculture. That organization now has grown to over 400,000 women. And these women, so my company that exports chilies, Jaliwe States Limited, they have outgrowers, 5,000 of them within Mwai. But then what has happened suddenly is that their money is under the pillow, money is stolen by their children, they are not organized. So we started little by little 20 women will be a group. And so it's called My Village Project. We partnered with a telecom company, and so they have one code, and each one has a phone, and they communicate through that phone. They save money together. They have a day when they share that money, but the money as well is not kept under the pillow anymore. It's on the phone, so it's safe. That is the revolution under the Joyce Banda Foundation. That is not smart villages. That's MWAI. MWAI is Market Women's Activities and Initiatives, right. Acronym MWAI. But MWAI is a local word for opportunity, luck. So when this woman is wearing her T-shirt and this MWAI here, she feels, I am a lucky woman. Yes. But it's an acronym.
Yes.
But so when I stepped aside from elections in 2019, when we were heading towards elections, President Lazarus Chakwera asked me to step aside. We discussed several times. He came to America, we discussed. He said, why don't you give me a chance? Let's work together. Sometimes you're stronger when you stand united. Well, fast forward, towards the election of 2019, I accepted. But we agreed that the way I would help my country now is to do what I love most. And that is to go back to grassroots. Because when I was president, I was established what I called smart villages, but not smart enough then, because they were just modern houses.
Right.
So if you go in most of the countries in Malawi, you find a smart village that they'll call Joyce Banda, or they'll call it Moose Transformation, anything they want to call it. But you could see the transformation in the lives of the people. I mean, suddenly they've got a good home. And this idea came so suddenly because I was going by the roadside. In some of the houses you see, I said, stop. My police were resisting. I went I found the women sitting together. I said, take me into your house. They were refusing. One of them accepted. I went into the house. There was nothing. Just a net, mosquito net they had received, and a mat, 2 pails, and 2 pots. It is when I was leaving the house that I discovered there was no door. You don't have a door? They said, no, this is called chikwekwerero. And chikwekwerero is when they put reeds together and they tie, and in the night she just puts like this. And I told this lady whose name is Nyasoko, I said, Nyasoko, I will never come back to your village until you have a home. And the day we presented homes, we ended up building 50 houses. And you know, these people, grassroots people, rural people, are not stupid. They know what they want, they just need support. Because when we got to the village, we found even the chief, they were offering free labor while we were building the houses. They were drawing water, they were bringing sand. So we ended up with 50 homes, and I saw what was possible. So we built a home. If you go to the last village in Malawi, which is Kameme, you're looking at Tanzania, there's a village. You go to the last village, looking at Mozambique, in Nsanje, there's a village. So that is the basis of smart village. When I came in, I decided that I've worked for 40 years at grassroots. And what I have found is that you go in an area, you build a clinic, and then you go in another area, you build a school. That's not enough. You go in another area, you provide microfinance. You go in another area, you plant trees. So a smart village, in my opinion, is where you take a holistic approach in supporting that village realize total transformation. So you look at modern houses, you look at clean energy, you look at environmental management. Yeah, so we go into this area, we mobilize for example, the one that we are implementing now, 3,000 households. So we bring them to this land. You help them build homes. And so the home will have modern houses, clean energy, electricity, solar. We'll have environmental management. This village will have food and nutrition security. This village will have agribusiness, microfinance. This village will have clean water. And this village will have a clinic, a school, and a mosque or a church. So for me, that's a smart village. So make sure that, as I'm talking to you now, yesterday, they were registering this My Village project. Yeah. They've already mobilized themselves. They don't want their money all over the place. But it's a powerful project because you just let the people and you just give them the support.
Yeah.
So each one will have a piece of land. And in this piece of land, they will grow cash crops, and they'll grow food crops, and they'll grow trees. And the cash crop has already got an off-taker. So they will grow on demand. So we'll say maybe this year, grow soya beans. We already know what grows a lot in that area.
Yes.
So this year, they are growing sugar beans. And it's already got a market. And they already know how much they'll get. So for me, that's a smart village. We've already laid the foundation stone for the hospital, so we shall be building a hospital. And it's amazing how we are getting support from all over the world. I mean, a project like that, everybody should get interested because they are going to be planting also a lot of trees as well.
Speaking of support and microfinancing in particular, access to funding or access to capital for women-led projects is seemingly a big challenge. How do we unlock that?
No, not only women-led organizations, but women-led organizations that are targeting women is a challenge. And what I don't understand is that some of us ran our organizations in the 90s. It was very easy to find donor funding. But now, this time, it's hard. And some people have said maybe because of COVID. No, we have information, you can Google that. When you talk about generation equality, which is also an initiative of Pumizi when she was at the UN Women, there's research that has been conducted that shows that 41 billion has been raised for women's organizations. Women's organizations targeting women and focusing on gender equality. Only 1% has accessed that money. The question is why? So it is not so much COVID, and it is not so much that there's no money. I think it's a question of attitude. So the battle is still on. Yeah, I think the neglect, the patriarchy at play again. Yeah.
What does the future hold for Joyce Banda in terms
Joyce Banda, the person or the foundation?
Joyce Banda, the person. Dr. Joyce Banda, the person.
This Joyce Banda is 72. So this Joyce Banda realizes very clearly, is very realistic, that there's just so much one can do. For me, I look back and see what I have achieved. It's been an extraordinary journey. But I must also accept that enough is enough. You get to a point where others must step in. For me, I'm very proud of what I've achieved. I mean, I have no regrets. Somebody has asked me, what is your greatest regret? My greatest regret is that I was not able to finish what I had planned for Malawi. That is all, nothing else. So for now, this project you're talking about, and the My project and the smart villages, is enough work for a 72-year-old.
It's certainly very important work.
Very important work.
Yeah.
For me to just sit there and see the lives of women transformed. And girls going to school. I hope you know that I've got 2 schools. So, I mean, so far we have sent 6,500 girls to school, 1,500 tertiary education. And out of those, 32 are medical doctors. Well, it's been a good journey. And I am so proud that God gave me that opportunity to do that, and then continues to provide this opportunity for me to continue, and to thank those around the world that provide the resources for me to do this. I'm saving only 25 boats.
That's a busy
I told my assistant, let's cut down. But yeah, so I have a lot of work right now, and I must say that I feel very good about what I'm doing. I'm enjoying what I'm doing in my country.
Your Excellency, I appreciate your time and for spending this moment with us here on In Focus, and particularly for coming on Newzroom Afrika, Channel 405. And we wish you all the best in your work, and particularly with the endeavors of developing rural communities.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me.